So there's lots to do on the A to Z, lots of letters, lots of words. So we'll start off with A. So what is A for? In this one, we're going to go with A for asbestos. So I don't know what you know about asbestos. Asbestos is a naturally forming mineral resource in the world. It's still mined today. It was banned in the UK in 1999, all types of asbestos. Certain types were banned before that. So any building built before 2000 or refurbished before 2000 might contain asbestos. Subscribe and share.
Hey, my name's Paul. I'm the property
survey for asbestos before any refurbishment work starts. All buildings before 2000 which most properties out there, people refurbing are. Some of them won't be. Got a nice new flat or something like that. For you, most properties that you're going to be refurbing, terrace houses, things like that, they're going to be built way before 2000, so you'll need to get an asbestos survey. Doesn't cost a lot of money, might be £300-400, but you need to commission an asbestos survey. So what you need to say to them when you've got somebody coming along is the scope of works that you are doing. There's no point in just saying go and have a look in that property and tell me what you find. They need to know what you're doing. So if you're knocking walls out, you're ripping things out, most things are going to be a total rip out. If you're taking bath panels off, you've got bath panels that can be asbestos, you've got solvents pipes, you can have guttering, you can have floor tiles, you've got Artex, that's probably the most common one that you're going to find. It can be in panels, in lagging, in cement pipes, it can be everywhere. You can have it in coal fires, it can be the rope seal around the door, you can have it absolutely anywhere. So you say to the asbestos surveyor what the scope of works is, what you're taking out, so then they can go and they can do what's called a demolition and refurbishment survey. So they're an intrusive one, they can just prise pipe boxings off, take your bath panel off, all these are things that are going anyway, but they need to look in there so you can be sure that there's no asbestos there for your workers that are following on, because you've got a duty of care to protect the workers that are coming into your property. So asbestos is a very important thing to do. It is expensive to get removed, but you do get tax incentives, which I'm not going to talk about in this video, but you do get tax incentives. So get your survey, might cost you £300-400, depending where you are in the country, but it's worth it, makes you sleep at night. So that is the letter A. The next one we'll go is the letter B, B for brick. So bricks, they come in all different shapes and sizes. They've been made for thousands of years. So you've got your modern day bricks and you've got all your old bricks, which are normally a little bit harder. You've got your terraced houses, especially the ones with purple veins in, they can be like bell metal if you're trying to drill into those. You can go places, near me there's a place called the Brick Library. You can go, take a picture, take a sample, you can go to them and they'll say, oh, it's this type of brick, that's the newest one that they make. You can go to reclaim specialists if you need to get matching up with an old terraced house. But there is lots of different types of bricks. You've got imperial bricks, you've got metric bricks, different shapes and sizes, you've got all sorts. There's hundreds and hundreds of different ones. The brick, obviously it's a wall that you're going to have. You've got your external wall, which is your shell. If you can have a solid wall, which is mainly terraced houses, but you've got brickwork that you've got lots of different types of bond. You've got English bond, Flemish bond, garden bond. There's lots and lots of different types of bonds. You've got your stretcher bond, which is in the new houses with cavities. So there's lots of different things to do with bricks. Then we'll move on to C, which, following along with bricks, it's a cavity. So what is a cavity? So a cavity wall is a wall that's two separate skins of, can be brick. Most commonly you've got brick externally and you've got a block internally, and then there's metal ties that cross the cavity to give it stability, and the ties are in a way so moisture doesn't pass through, because that was the issue with solid walls. They were fine, really nice and strong, but moisture, any rain outside goes on that wall, prolonged rain, there's nothing stopping it coming all the way through, so you can get damp and mould in your terraced houses. It's got solid skin unless you do something on the internal or outside to protect it. So your brickwork on the outside is there really to strengthen but also protect the inner skin, because the inner skin, the block work, that's got all the structural weight of the house. So when you look inside, all your joists are sat on there, all the roof trusses are sat on the inner skin, so that's got the way, that bears the weight of the majority of the house. And the brick skin on the outside is there to protect it and also strengthen it as well, so it's a wider. The cavity were there. It came around the end of 1920s. Terraced houses did start to have some cavity walls, but then into the 1930s, then that's when you saw cavity walls more common. It were there to increase thermal comfort and to stop the moisture from penetrating, so a bit of a gap. Started off very small, and then when you got to the 1960s, that's when you'll see that window sizes increased massively. So you'll look at a 1960s estate, see that the windows are really big. That's because the cavities were increased, so they thought that if we increase the cavities size for thermal comfort, we can get away with big windows. But then they realised after so many years that this wasn't very good for energy efficiency. So then you'll notice that after the 1960s, that when you go into 1970s and 80s, cavities might have increased slightly, but the window size has shrunk. So you look at next time you're going around, you'll look at a 1960s, early 70s estate, and you'll see that you've got really big windows, and then you'll go to a 1980s estate and onwards, and you see that the windows have shrunk massively. So that's your brickwork. Next one is what have we got for our next one? So next one, we've got the letter E. So we're going to go for eaves. So what are the eaves? So eaves are at the bottom of the roof. So you've got your tiles, and then you've got your guttering, you've got your soffits and fascias. So that is your eaves. So if you look, the bit that you can't see, which is inside, will be boxed out. There'll be some noggins there to hold your fascia and your soffit in place, so you can fix them too. There should be a gap above the fascia, which lets air flow from the outside over between the tiles and the fascia, and then going up into the roof rafters, which will go above your loft insulation. So that is a nice airflow to stop any damp, anything drying out or help everything dry out in there, stop any damp and condensation, things going rotting. So that is your letter E for eaves. We've skipped one. So before E, we have the next letter is the letter D. So we're going to go with damp proof course. So the next letter is the letter D for DPC, which is a damp proof course. So what is a damp proof course? So this is something low down at the bottom of the house. There is, sometimes it can be a plastic piece that they lay down when they're building it. It can be bitumen. You can have injected damp proof course. This is all there to stop moisture from rising up and causing you issues, rising damp internally. So you have damp proof course. If it's a cavity wall on the inner and outer skin, you might have different trays, what we call them, the terminology, inside. So depending whether you've got windows and things like that, you'll have trays, which is another video. Generally, your damp proof course, it's just down at low level. So if you've got a 1980s property, you've got timber ground floor joists, or the new properties don't have them, but timber ground floor joist, the joist will laid on top of a DPC. The DPC, or the ground level in relation to the DPC, needs to be 150 millimeters lower. This is stop any driving, bouncing rain when you get your torrential rain, hitting whatever is there, whether it's block paving, tarmac or anything, and bouncing back up and crossing the DPC line, and then you're getting rising damp. If you have got any decking that you've built and you've noticed some white marks on the wall, just have a look to see if the decking is closer than 150 millimeters from the DPC, if it's bridging, and this can cause you white marks on the wall. It's salt effervescing out of the brickwork and the mortar. So that's D for damp proof course. So the next letter is the letter F, and we're going to go with first fix. So what is first fix? So these are all, generally it's all the items that are done in a refurbishment before the plastering. So it's all stuff that's buried in walls. So you've got stud work, so you've got timber walls if you're building any en-suites and things like that. You've got any brickwork, you've got your electrical first fix, you've got your joinery first fix, putting your door frames in, you've got your plumbing first fix. So these are all first fix items. It's all buried stuff, all carcass stuff that goes, and generally it's hidden. Some of it you'll see afterwards, but mainly it's all sunk into walls. The sparkiest cables all get chopped into the wall and plastered over, so you don't see the first fix items afterwards when it's all been plastered. So your first fix is all the items that are done before your plastering work. So the next letter is the letter G. G for ground level. So ground level, you need to make sure that your ground level outside is 150 millimeters or lower than your damp proof course, which we mentioned earlier. This is to stop any rising damp. So make sure that your ground floor level, so if you're doing any decking or any paving and you think, oh, I'll just go over top of what's already there, just bear in mind that that might then bridge the 150 that you've got. So that's your G for ground level. Next letter is the letter H for hot water cylinder. So we're going to find this in larger properties in a wire plan system where you've got the old cylinder which heats the hot water up for you. You can have a boiler that generates the heating for the radiators, and then you just have the cylinder for the hot water. It used to be slightly different back in the day, but most properties you find these days have got combi boilers, which are ideal for smaller properties, whether it's 1, 2, 3 bedroom houses, combi boiler. When you start getting bigger than that, you've got more people using it, and it's more cost effective to have a cylinder where you're storing water that's already heated. If you've got a HMO or a bigger property, then you need to have a cylinder, but your plumber will advise you on what type of heating goes in. Next, we're going to go with I for ironmongery. So what is ironmongery? So these are all metal things that go onto your doors, can go onto windows as well. So you've got your door handles, your latches, your locks, your door knockers, your spirals, your door stops, your bolts, hinges. These are all ironmongery items that go onto your doors and windows. So that's letter I. Then we've got J for joist. So what is a joist? So joist is the structural part of the floor. These are sat on the brick or block work, so it's timbers that are underneath the floorboards. You might have concrete timbers with concrete beams, joists with blocks if you've got a block and beam floor, and then that's screeded over. But normally in a traditional house you're going to have joists which are timber, depending on what they are, might be 7, 8, 9 inch, could be 2 inch wide, 3, 4 if it's a trimmer. You've got lots of different sizes in there depending on the span of that the joist is actually crossing. So in the old days for your terrace houses, the joists will be connected with timber joints and nails, and then as they progressed there were joist hangers and clout nails, lots of little clout nails. So those are the different ways that you'll find that joists are in a property. These days you don't find timber joists unless you're doing a loft conversion, or in a new building you've got a loft that's already got a bedroom up in the loft that's already converted. You're going to find some timber ceiling joists, but mainly on the new houses it's all going to be block and beam, concrete floors, and you're not going to find joists. The next letter is the letter K for kiln dried. So what is kiln dried? So this is timber. Normally when you've got timber it's cut and it needs to dry it out naturally, but with the demand it's put into a kiln and dried out quicker, so it can be cut down, cut to size, and then put on the shelf, and you can have it a lot quicker. So you find that they go into a kiln and they are kiln dried. So you can get other things that are kiln dried. So you can have sand, things like that, that's kiln dried. So that is the letter K. Then we've got the letter L for lintel. So what is a lintel? So this is something that goes across a door or a window opening. Can be metal, can be concrete, can be wooden. We'll find that certain properties, internal it could be wooden, and externally it can be concrete or metal. They can be individual, so you can have a mix and matched. Newer properties you find that it is just one piece which will cross both, and you get some insulation up there. So that's what you have a lintel, and that takes the weight where the window and door open is. It just spreads it across either side, so it's not all on the window. You'll find that some properties, your older ones, there weren't any lintels installed. The brickwork were just sat on top of the window. There were no thought of what will happen in 20, 30, 40 years time when the windows were changed. But what happens is you see a little pyramid of brickwork above the window or the door opening when they've been taken out as it starts to settle. The rest of it is okay because it's spread as you go past. So you find that there'll be a little pyramid of brickwork that's been rebuilt. If you go to a house and you see that, see some cracking, it's nothing major, even if it's not been rebuilt and it's sunk a little bit. It just needs a little L-shaped lintel putting in there, taking all that brickwork out and then just rebuilding. Like I said before, most of the structural weight of the property is the internal skin. That's when you've got your main issues, but a little bit of cracking that's not going to cause you much of an issue. The next letter is the letter M for miscoat. So what is miscoat? So this is what you do. You put when you're doing a property, you need to put a thin layer, it's a watered down layer of paint on bare plaster. This seals it. This stops your paint from peeling it, because if you just get normal paint, start slapping it on everywhere, it's on too thick, it'll dry too quickly, and then eventually that could start peeling off. So you have a watered down solution of paint that you go over, you can spray it on. Sometimes you get somebody to come with a machine and just spray it on, and it can get a house done in a day, to get it done really quickly. Or you can do it yourself or get it done by a roller and paintbrush, but you need to do a miscoat. This goes on everywhere. Ideally, you miscoat once the wall is dry. The plaster must be dry and not still damp in patches. You need to have it dry, and then you can have the paint applied to it, ideally before any second fix trades go in. This highlights any defects in the plaster. Also, it gives it a base coat, so when your painter comes in to do the proper painting after the second fixing, there's already some layer of paint behind where the radiators are being hung, where all the switches are and sockets and units. It's already got something in there, so it's going to mean that your your decoration gets done a lot quicker if you just spend a day or so doing a miscoat everywhere. But it is a watered down solution paint. And his next letter is the letter N for newel post. So what is a newel post? So this is on the stairs. So this is, depending on what type of stairs it is, you can have vertical at the top and the bottom. Then the handrail is part that the handrail is connected. So as the newel post goes down, it goes into the string and the nosings. This gives it the strength. At the top, it's notched around your stair joists, and then in the middle of that, you've got all your spindles and everything. So you can have a newel cap. You can have full newels, you can have half newels, you've got your newel caps. So that is what a newel is. They're normally about 4 inch by 4 inch, might be slightly thinner, slightly sculptured, but that's your newel post. You get them at top and the bottom of the stairs. If it's just a straight run, if it's got half landing and stuff like that, you might get them part way down as well. But that is your newel post. So next letter is the letter O for overboarding. So what is overboarding? So if you're overboarding plasterboard, if you've got some defective, cracked old plaster boards, back in the day they didn't put scrim tape over the joints, so you get these nuisance cracks all the time. You might have defects, might be bits of plaster coming off. You might think, oh, I'm going to overboard it. Well, you need to see what is already up there, because if it's already been overboarded once or twice, then you've got a lot of plaster up there, so you might have to take it down. If it's original plaster, it might be plastered or plaster overlaps, and then it's not that thick, so you need to make sure that the nails or screws fixings are long enough to go through into the joists. Ideally, you want to be taking ceilings down so you can see what damage it is. If there's anything rotting up there, it gets rid of all the rubbish that's been accumulating over the years. Your first fix cables and pipes can all get done from below, so you're reducing anybody falling through floorboards that have been taken up and left for a while, and you're not going to have any creaking floorboards afterwards. So ideally take them down, but on occasions where you can't, it's not viable, then you might need to overboard. Just be careful exactly what you're overboarding over. Next, we're going to go with P for padstone. So what's a padstone? So if you're in a house, you're taking a wall out, you've got an RSJ that you're going to be putting in, then you can't just sit that on brickwork. If it's been designed, your structural engineer will design padstones, which is generally, it's a concrete block which you can order different sizes, and that just sits on and it will spread the weight. The engineer will work out exactly what size pad stone that you need, so it just distributes the weight, so it's just not all on. It's something that's bigger than a brick, and it just distributes the weight, so it's just not all on that point load on that little 4-inch of a brick. Your joist need to overhang minimum of 4 inches. Sometimes your engineer also 6 inches if you've got that, but if your joist's going 90 degrees to a wall, you've only got a 4-inch wall, you can't overhang it 6 inches. So the engineer sometimes will get them wrong, but they'll give you the size of what your pad stone needs to be. Make sure that you've got the correct size, it gets installed, and then your RSJ, your beam can sit on it. Q. So the next one is the letter Q. So we're going with Q for quadrant. So what's a quadrant? So a quadrant is, if you imagine it's a quarter of a circle. So these come in lats. So you get, sometimes you'll get them, depending if say you're doing a architrave around a door frame. If the door frame is tight up to the wall, you can't get full bit of architrave all the way around. It's too small to be able to rip down some architrave because you're just wasting architrave. So generally the rule is just get a little bit of quadrant. You can get them different sizes, you can get them 3, 5/8, an inch, all different sizes. You might just have to chamfer. They should come with a slight chamfer on the back, but you might just have to chamfer it a little bit more because you've never got a square corner. And then you can fit that into the corner. It covers the joint between the timber door frame and the plastered wall, and it just stops any nuisance cracks. A little bit of caulking down each side of it, and everything looks fine and nobody's ever going to notice it. So next letter is letter R for RWP. What does RWP stand for? It's rainwater pipe. So these are all your down pipes. So these connect from your guttering down to hopefully into a gully to the ground to get rid of your rainwater. Some properties that you might find, if you've got a 1960s estate, then might be some terraced houses. If you've got them in a run, there's not all properties have got a down pipe, and then that causes an issue, because if you're at the end of the run and if there's a blockage further down the run, your water's just going to come over. Once it all gets filled up, it's just going to come over. Same if you're at the beginning of a run and yours blocks, you've got all of everybody else's rainwater coming towards you and you're going to get flooded. So ideally you need to look out for that, make sure that you've got a rainwater pipe on your house and everybody else has got rainwater pipes, and the guttering ideally needs to be independent, so it's not joining onto everybody's and then you're not getting everybody else's, or you're getting issues that relates to everybody else. Your house just deals with your water, your roof, into your guttering, into your rainwater pipe. It's just something to look out for out there. Next is the letter S for second fix. So what is a second fix? So this is everything that happens after plastering, before decoration. So this is all your joinery, or your architraves, your skirtings, your kitchen goes in, your flooring that's going to go down for plywood going over floors. You've got your electrical second fix, which is all your sockets and your switches and your lights. Then you've got your plumbing second fix, which is plumbing in your kitchen sink, getting your radiators on, getting your baths in, your showers in, your wash and basin, your WCs. This is all your second fix stuff. Get your wall tiles on. This is everything after plastering, before decoration. It's very important that you have a check before decoration to make sure that all the second fix is done. Next we're going to go with T, which is T for trickle vent. So what is a trickle vent? So this is, you'll find it generally at the top of a window. So it's a little bit of plastic that's got a little lever on it that you can open and close it. Ideally you want them all open. Why do we have trickle vents? Well, you need to have some moisture or some ventilation coming in. Back when properties were built, we didn't think about ventilation, and especially when we started to insulate. So if you've got a house that was all nicely built and vented, and then for instance you've got cavity wall insulation that's being installed, you've now massively reduced the ventilation to that property. So when you have windows, you want trickle vents, but it is only certain windows that have trickle vents, which is basically everyone that's not got an extractor fan in the room. So your kitchen and your bathroom does not need trickle vents. You need to make sure that you've got your doors undercut, which is another video, so air will circulate around the house. So the idea is that you've got a bedroom window, you've got a trickle vent, so it lets some air flow in, fresh air coming in. That air then goes through the house and then eventually works its way out. So if it's the bathroom extractor fan that's on a humidity stat that's constantly pulling, or if it's a living room window, fresh air is coming in through there all the time, it's getting pulled out and sucked through the fan in the kitchen. The reason why you have trickle vents on your kitchen or your bathroom windows, because effectively you've got, especially in a bathroom, you've got a small bathroom, you've got an extractor fan sucking air out of the bathroom, you've got a trickle vent putting air back into the bathroom. Basically you've got a loop where you could just have that same fresh air just circulating around in the bathroom. You don't want that. You want the air coming from other rooms, from the bedrooms and the hallway. That's the air that you need to go into the bathroom to go out through the trickle vent. Same with the kitchen. You don't want a kitchen window with a fan outside of it and you've got your air just circulating around there. It needs to be coming in through the rest of the house, and that's how you deal with the moisture. Next letter is a letter U for undercloaking. So what is undercloaking? So this is anything that fits underneath. It can have a porch ceiling. Generally your undercloakings, you've got your roof tiles and then it finishes. Your roof tiles overhang slightly over the soffits or barge boards just on the sides of the house. There's a little bit of shuttering which will nail into the top of the rafter, which overhung how much the tile overhung, and that gives you a layer of undercloaking. And then you've got your tile, so it's basically a little bit of shuttering, so you could gobble that up and it wouldn't fall out. Generally your undercloakings in all the houses need to get them tested because they could be asbestos. Asbestos cement was commonly used back in the day. It then changed, but there's a lot of asbestos cement undercloakings out there. That's what an undercloaking is. So next one is V for valley and valley board. So what is a valley? So this is when you've got a roof and then you've got an offshot and it forms a bit of a V. So that is your valley. It'll be running down from the top and going down into guttering. You get a valley board that lays on top of the rafters, and then you've got your tile battens, and then you put your LED flashings or your plastic valleys in there. So that is what a valley is. It's on your roof and it goes down if you've got any offshots or extensions or anything like that. And then that is your valley. W is for weep hole. So what's a weep hole? So you can find these all over houses, on the brickwork, if it's a certain age. So if you've got a new house with cavity and there are trays, you find little weep holes. It's a little plastic thing, and any water that condenses in the cavity and drops down onto the tray and it comes out, you need to be careful that if it's a new house that you've got, that they don't just scrape a little bit of gobble out, cut a weep hole down, stick it in, and you think you've got your trays because the brickies forgot to do them when you were building it. Just make sure that they are right. You can get weep holes on windows. So the idea is at the bottom of a window, the older ones, they kind of face drain. So if there's any condensed water inside the frame, it'll run down, it'll come out through these weep holes. The next letter is a letter X. Now we're struggling a little bit with this one, but we've got cross section. So this is if you've got a drawing and you have a cross section drawing, it'll have some details on that you can help build whatever you are building, whether it's a cross section of an extension that you're building, it'll show you all the details, the floor heights and the joists and everything. There'll be drawings that details that go off that, but generally your cross section is just a cut through of a house on a drawing so you can see how it's made up. So then we've got the letter for Yale lock. So the old-fashioned Yale locks, you had two different types. You had the grey one and you had the green one. So we commonly used, they weren't very secure. You could quite easily get into a Yale lock through various means. That you don't get them as now because they're not very safe and not very secure. But locks, you might find a house that's got one on and all you're going to do is remove your door and frame and get rid of it because they're not very secure at all. And the last letter is a letter Z for zinc. So zinc PZB, so these are screws, a type of metal that screws are made of. You find them very common, you can get different ones, but lots of them are zinc PZBs, which are quite hard and they'll come in all different shapes, sizes. So just have a look out there, you'll see that they can be zinc PZBs. I hope this video was of use to you. I hope you liked it, found it interesting. If you want any more tips, if you click on the link, you can get my free ebook, which is Refurbishment and Renovation Secrets. It's what the builder doesn't want you to know, so don't let them know that I've given it to you. So click on the link if you can.